Hey everybody, today I want to go over two of my favorite moves to do with a lacrosse ball that can help you get a little bit more upright posture either in the overhead squat or in the front squat. And my two favorite things to do are to lacrosse ball the back extensors and also the top of the quads. So let's talk about the back extensors first. So in the back, your back extensors are a group of muscles that run all along either side of the spine, and they're responsible for helping to keep us upright, to maintain great posture. But a lot of times they can really tighten up, especially after sitting all day or just feeling really compressed or leaning forward. So having those extensors and some areas of the back loosened up a bit more can help us to stay more upright. So my favorite thing to do is I've got a chair here. You can also use a box if you're at the gym to elevate your feet. And I find that helps to get a more effective position under the back. And I'm gonna focus on the area below the bottom of my ribs and the top of my hip bone. So this nice little kind of a sausagey area on either side of the spine. So I'm gonna start on the right side and place that lacrosse ball right there. And a few things I like to do in particular. First, I'll start with some knee raises. I'll bring the knee to the chest, kind of mimicking the same position that I use in a squat. And then I'll straighten the leg. So I'll do this about 10 or so times. Just kind of feeling the ball digging through that side of my back, kind of loosening up that really tight lower back muscle. And I find this is super helpful in staying a lot more upright. I'll also try some straight-legged ones too, just to get some more variety. And then I'll also roll side to side. So I'll start from the side of my obliques, and I'll dig in with pressure into the ball and roll upwards towards the spine, and then reset, go back to the obliques and the side, dig in and roll. And each time I'm kind of moving up and down about maybe half an inch or so to different spots on my back. Again, just focusing on that area between the bottom of my ribs and where the top of my hip bones start. Another thing I like to do as well is something called a contract and relax, which is really great for signaling to your muscles that you're working on them and you're telling them to squeeze and tense up and then actually melt and loosen up. So what I'll do is I'll squeeze really hard the muscles that are right around the lacrosse ball. So I'll tense up my lower back, kind of scrunch it all together for about 5 seconds. And then I'll let everything melt all over the ball for 5 seconds. Just kind of relax and let that muscle kind of stretch and peel itself all around the ball. So I'll do that for about 2 or 3 rounds, contracting really hard and squeezing for about 5 seconds, and then relaxing and letting my lower back just kind of melt all over the ball, stretch out, loosen out. And I find that that's a pretty effective way for me to get that lower area of my back to really loosen up. And you can do this before you're doing things like a squat, overhead squat, a snatch, front squat, or you can just do this like in the morning when you wake up and your back's probably really stiff and tight from being in bed all day. So spend about 1 to 2 minutes on either side. I just did the right side. And you can also just come into a squat, test it out, and see if one side feels a little bit more upright and more open than the other, and then switch to the other side. So let's talk about lacrosse balling the top of the quads. So in particular, coming from the top of the hip crease down along the side all the way to the knee, I find that this muscle gets pretty tight and can really limit your depth. Because if this is really shortened, then your hips are not as likely to easily come as deep as they're able to. So in the same way, you're gonna take that lacrosse ball, you're gonna start, I usually actually start by the knee, and then I'll roll upwards towards the thighs, kind of putting pressure into the ball as I head up towards the crease of the hips, and then I'll bring it back down to the knee. All right, it's getting away from me here. Reset, and then kind of push upwards towards the thigh. So I'll kind of do this about a few times. I'll also do that contract relax where I squeeze my quad muscle, the front of my leg, tightly around the ball, really flexing and squeezing the top of my knees. And then I'll relax and let the front of my quads really dig and melt into the ball as I rolled around. So just doing that a few times, and I'll experiment with different spots from being up here close to the top of my hips versus down near the outside of the knee. And so experimenting with different areas, spending about 1 to 2 minutes there per side. And so again, just to test and just make sure that you know, that what you're doing is very effective, you can always go into a squat after just doing the right side only and just noticing the difference in your squat, whether or not one side feels a little bit more deeper or if you just feel a little bit more upright. So I hope these 2 tips have helped you and hopefully you get a chance to try them either during your warm-ups or cool down or, you know, anytime that you have a lacrosse ball ready.